Welcome back to the Prosperous Life Podcast, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up today. It is my goal, as well as my guest's goal, to really drive authenticity home. My question to you is, when was the last time you've questioned your beliefs? When was the last time you looked back on your identity and who you've become? When was the last time you asked yourself, who am I looking to become? When was the last time you asked yourself, what is it I want to achieve for me? Not to be enough for anybody else, what is it that I truly want? Today, it is my blessing to have Ace on the podcast to bless you guys in your lives, as he's a barber over at Ace Barbers in downtown Salt Lake City. And he's been clearly obsessed with psychology and human development. With that in mind, welcome to the podcast, Ace.
Thank you, Braiden. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. So getting into this, we talked a little bit about before our cameras were starting rolling was accountability and authenticity. You're clearly living the winning lifestyle while you're being your authentic self. And I feel like that's so important to recognize, simply because a lot of people can win, but I'm going to take that back, but are they being themselves? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you've always been able to be your authentic self, or do you feel like you've ever struggled with that sense?
Yeah, I mean, great question. And obviously we were kind of touching base on it a little bit earlier, is thankfully being myself and being authentically, who I actually am did happen very naturally. It's who I've always been, what I've always been up. I think a lot has to go with how I was raised, through my parents, but also like through watching them and how they live their lives as well. I grew up with high accountability, high structure, a lot of rules. But it was also, my parents talked the talk, but they walked the walk. So it helped a lot. And I think it's a good question, because it's one of the simplest things in life, I guess, to create a winning spirit behind you. But it's one of the hardest things to do consistently and do it for all the right reasons. And you really got to strip away all the other things of life and just keep it as simple as possible. And, are you truly making decisions because you want to make those decisions? Are you choosing what you're choosing because that's what you feel in your heart, or that's what you feel in your soul, or in your brain, or your gut, everything there? And I think it's very easy to get, whether it's distracted or, pushed around, or have other things make decisions for you, because you either want to fit in, you think that's what gets people's attention. It's a complicated situation, but at the end of the day, being your authentic self is one of the simplest yet hardest thing to actually do in this world. And it's probably always been hard, but I think it's getting harder and harder and harder with so much extra influence going around you all the time, where even if you may think you're making a decision for yourself, you got influenced by all these other things and all these other people, were you really making that decision for you and only for you? But yeah, I thankfully, through the effort of how I was raised and who I am, being my authentic self, not that I don't work on it every single day, and not that I don't progress on it every single day. I didn't struggle with that from an early age to now. It was always, what does Mason want to do? What do I want to be? What decision do I want to make? And I don't know if that was just innate, like just how my personality came out that way. I don't know. It's probably a mixture of all the above. My personality had that way. Being the youngest out of 4 boys, I observed a lot. Again, from how I like to kind of say my childhood was. So youngest out of 4 boys, grew up the most stereotypical way in Utah you could ever possibly have. Dad was a bishop growing up when I was a kid. He was a detective for Salt Lake County for 20 years. He was the officer that created the DARE program here in Utah. He's been a judge for 20 years. You put that in a patriarchal father with 4 boys, how you think my childhood was exactly how it was. It was all rules, all structure. Being told, how to do what to do, a lot of work ethic. We had an acre of land, huge garden, a lot of lawn care, mowing and aerating lawns at a super young age. And it was, you didn't have a choice. That's part of being in the Parkin family. This is what you do. But it created that work ethic. And maybe because of having 3 older brothers, we all, got good kind people, but I feel all of us are authentically our own personality.
Sure.
My parents, the exact same way. My dad is the definition of that. Like, he is one of the kindest, sweetest people, but he's a strong personality. He's one of those, like, if you walk in a room with him and he thinks he knows you, like, he's talking to you, like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, he's going to come up to you. He's got all the confidence in the world to not be the strongest person in the room in a negative way, but it's, there's nothing scaring him away. He's not intimidated by anything. He goes everything headstrong, but he uses so much positivity and candor and care while doing all of that. And having that as an example as your dad, and then having 3 older brothers that all kind of did the same thing. And I just felt like there was nobody in my initial environment that wasn't being their true self. Obviously as a kid, you don't always tell the truth to your parents. There's some things that you keep away from them. But us brothers, we kind of always told the truth to each other. My oldest brother, he came out being gay when he was 17 in high school. He was 2001. I was like 6 years old. And at the time, I didn't know what the hell was going on, obviously. But it was one where even at such an early age, I saw my older brother being his authentic self and dealing with the consequences and dealing with the reality that is, and seeing him go through that headstrong and still being himself. And he just really taught me, it's like, you get to choose to be a good person. Like, no religion, nothing else dictates how you treat people and who you are as a human being. And I think just having those examples at a really young age, the authenticity part, again, I'm always finding myself and growing on myself.
Sure.
But I've never felt like I've changed. I've always just felt like I've evolved or grown or improved. Like, I've never felt like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm making these choices. I got to change like a 180. I got to do something different. Everything needs to be different. And I've just never, lucky enough, I've never felt that way. I've just constantly just one foot in front of the other, making those mistakes and learning from it. And I had my fair share at a young age for sure. But I always felt like I was myself from an early point in my life.
Absolutely. And it seems like your parents really allowed that to be. I mean, officer, judge, bishop, there's a lot of structure there.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is your parents created a framework, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here. They created a framework of, as long as you do all of these good characteristics and you take on these characteristics, you're going to live a very successful life. And then they gave you the freedom to put your own spice on it.
Oh, 100%. It's one where, a lot of expectations. I mean, a lot of rules for sure. Because their whole point is they wanted 4 well-rounded boys that knew how to work, knew how to take care of themselves, knew how to provide for a family, whatever that looked like to them. They wanted, 4 successful people that were making the world a better place. And so they put all their effort into that. And they did such a good job at it. They took parenting seriously. And so I'm spoiled to have parents that absolutely took that part seriously. And, one thing, especially being brought up here with, say, those type of parents, they really used agency well. I know a lot of people growing up, in the church, every parent's different. They're human beings trying to figure out this world as well. My parents let us make those mistakes. What we learned was you get to choose your life. You get to choose what your decision in this world, but you don't get to choose your consequences in this world. And they also taught us that consequences don't just mean a bad thing. There's good consequences and bad consequences. It's just the effect of a cause. It's just the effect of a decision, but they let us make those decisions. And, when they were the wrong decision in their mind or the negative decision in their mind, again, we didn't choose the consequences. They absolutely did. And they had an interesting, productive, in hindsight, not always the funnest way, but they did a good job at letting us choose kind of our route in this world and just try to guide us and lead by example and coach us in the right way without forcing us to live a certain way or forcing us to have a certain ideology or for certain perspective on this world. They knew we had to discover that no matter what. Obviously, they have their preferences and they try to guide us towards certain things. But at the end of the day, it was all based around like high character things more than anything. Like that was priority one for my parents and their whole parenting strategy. It was high character boys for sure.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. So going in all that, there's one thing that I've recognized, and we talked about it earlier once again, is that you've just simply did the things that brought you joy. Through your entire life, you've just, I like this. I'm going to try this on. Whatever the case was. And if we really bring that to light for these other people that are like, wow, I wish I could be like Ace and, be my authentic self. I wish I could be like Ace and not feel like I need to do 180 because I'm doing all the things that I don't want to do. If people could just see, if something brings you joy, do more of it. And if something doesn't bring you joy, just drop it.
Yeah, get rid of it. You don't need it.
Like, it's really that simple.
It is. It's hard. It's not fun letting go. It's not easy letting go and moving on. To that exact point. And I learned that at a young age and can articulate it simpler and better now. It's such an easy example to be your authentic self. If it brings you joy, do it, period. End of discussion. You don't need any other excuse. You don't need any other reason. If it brings you joy and it doesn't harm another person, like full send, go for it, do it. And if it doesn't, get rid of it. You got one life to live and you got to live it strong. You got to live it to the fullest potential to it all. Take advantage of this awesome opportunity that we do have. Life's full of some beautiful, amazing things out there and you can go get it, but it requires effort. So besides the simple thing of if it brings you joy, do it. Another thing that I really believe in, and I said this earlier and I'll just keep on beating it in the ground, no matter what problem, what fear, what traumatic situation, no matter confusion, you're struggling with your authentic self, you're struggling figuring out your why and your purpose, I promise you the answer is always found with the person in the mirror. It's always within you. So if it doesn't bring you joy, drop it, get rid of it. You got to take care of you first. And if being your authentic self, and authenticity is what sells, that's what connects with human beings. That's what really gives you a lifelong career in whatever business or whatever life you want to be. It's you as a person with high character. People like being around people with high character. You can trust them, you respect them, you love them. We all love a lot of things out in this world, but we've all trust very few things or very few people. Trust is a underrated thing to have as a character. Only you can create that type of character and that type of person. Only you can put in the work to do it. Only you can let go of the things that are holding you back or making it difficult. Only you can choose joy. Only you can choose positivity. It's always you. It doesn't matter what else you could throw at someone or at me or anything else. The answer is always found in the person in the mirror, which is good because it's that simple. The hardest thing though is no one else is going to do it for you. Like you have to do the work. There's no shortcuts. It's one where effort is bottom line going to be a part of every little thought, every little thing, every little decision that you have for the rest of your life. You got to do it. No one else is doing it for you. But yeah, you can do it. I mean, it's amazing. It's once you really start being your authentic self and you kind of strip away from everything else, I think it becomes a lot more enjoyable. You put the pressure, you take the unnecessary pressure away from life. Life is complicated. Life is not always easy. It's even if you're making all the right decisions and you're playing the game as perfect as possible, drama and conflict finds a way to your world, no matter what. Doesn't matter who you are, that's going to happen. But if you are not making decisions because of you, no matter whether it's family, religion, politics, friends, social media, strangers, if that's really influencing your decision, you're just adding more conflict and you're just adding more hardship that's going to be finding its way no matter what. Life has ups and downs and there's a lot of hardship no matter what. So it's better to get all that unnecessary pressure away from you. You don't need to be holding on to that. You don't need all that heavy backpack on you. Life's hard enough. Take a load off for yourself and, try to simplify it and make it as easy as possible. It's a lot more enjoyable where you're not hauling around an extra 100-pound backpack of stress.
Absolutely. When you were saying that, the thing that came to mind was the answer is more close to home than we think. because you said look yourself in the mirror, because that's where the answer is. It comes down to what's bringing you joy and what's not. When you look in the mirror, if you can really look at yourself and say, okay, what are the things taking away from my life right now? You probably could list a couple.
Yeah. And that might be the biggest, best decision you've ever done. You know, I think sometimes it is less about, maybe at least initially, is it's less about doing more, and it's getting rid of the less, getting rid of the bullcrap. If you can get rid of all that baggage pulling you down, making it more difficult, adding more stress to it all, I think that is one of the most powerful things that we all can do better, and we all need to do more of. Letting go is difficult. Sometimes, you know, you hold on when you know you shouldn't, and you don't want to go through the pain, because you know there is pain on the other side. There's no way around it. You know, one of my favorite, so in the barber shop, we have a giant bison head. A few reasons why, but it's kind of become our spirit animal, if you will. You know, it's got some localness to Utah as well. The bison are one of the only animals, when they sense a storm, they run towards the storm. Most animals, you name it, they start feeling that storm, they run away. They go away from the storm. The bison realize, if I can go through that storm, yeah, it's difficult. And that's why they're also a herd type animal. You know, it's kind of like going through through war with your brotherhood or with your family, you know, so that it is a herd mentality, but they're doing that together. And they know, yeah, it's going to be difficult, but we're going to get through it in 1/10 the amount of time. If you're crossing through that storm, it passes so much faster. Yeah, there was pain. Yeah, it was difficult, but it's done like that. If you're running away, that storm is just always chasing you and potentially has a chance to get bigger and bigger and bigger before it hits you, but it eventually hits you. So it's kind of one of those where that pain or that hardship of letting something go, it is going to happen. Like you do have to go through it, but spearheading it and choosing to go through it, one, you feel better after when it's all said and done. You learn from it easier and faster when it's all said and done. And, you know, I would argue maybe the pain is a little bit less because you took it with some confidence and you spearheaded that situation.
Absolutely.
So, you know, be the bison with that pain. You know, it is going to be there, and it's not always fun, but, you know, push yourself through it.
Absolutely. And the thing that comes to mind is big, small. Pay attention to the small things in life, because 1,000,000,000 times 0 is 0. If you're worth $1 billion in your relationships, in your career, in all these aspects, and you're very fulfilled, well, the 0 in your life, whatever that is, even if it's small and it's falling through the cracks, and you're saying, well, it's not that big of a deal. Well, it's not that big of a deal. Where you keep steering your head, that 0 could be the one thing that's making you have 0% fulfillment in life, when everything else in your life is beautiful. Mm-hmm. But since you're not willing to get rid of the 0 in your life,
oh yeah,
that small thing, it's affecting everything.
Yeah, I mean, you know, think about whether it's a relationship or friendship, that especially, you know, a partner. Even though you're physically, say you're in the car with them, you're on the couch with them, you're hanging out with them, you're physically with them, but you know their mind is elsewhere. Their mind is on a stressful situation or something that they're struggling with, especially in something that they can let go, but they're not present. You know, you're not really there with that person. Well, physically, sure you are, but that 0, that negative thing that your partner or you are having in your head, you're lost in thought, you're lost in stress, you're lost in everything else. And you have that $1 billion thing right next to you. You have a healthy relationship that loves and adores you and wants to be with you, wants to do everything with life with you. And you're focusing on the stupid coworker that said something that, you know, you don't like how they said it, or they're not getting in trouble for something you got in trouble for, or the person that cut you off on the highway, or, you know, those things happen. You know, the conflict happens outside of our world, but when you're living onto that 0, you're missing out on that 8 billion. You know, it's, you know, life is beautiful. You know, look outside. Obviously we're spoiled with the mountains. We got a little snow this morning, almost a full moon.
Shoot.
Got some good good colors on the leaves for just a little bit longer. It's like, so nature's beautiful. Life is beautiful. Human beings, there's nothing more beautiful than human beings. And there's nothing better than, a committed partner that loves you to death, and you're not taking advantage of that $8 billion woman or that $8 billion, man. You're distracted on the zero. You're distracted. Your mind is elsewhere. Your thoughts are elsewhere. Especially if it's something that you can just let go. Most things you can just let go. Like, it doesn't really matter what it is. Like, especially if it's a thought, if it was an interaction, even if it's work. Like, I know obviously we all need a job. We all need that to like pay our life. But if it's causing that much stress and that much anxiety or that much, just baggage weighing you down, you can let go of that. Like, you can leave that job today. If it's really causing you that much trauma and that much stress, you can go find another one. You can always do that. Or if you're in a unhealthy relationship, that's probably the hardest thing to really leave. You got commitment, you got time, you got a person that you care about. You might be improving their life, but they're not improving your life to your fullest abilities, or they're not loving you the way that you need to be loved. Relationships are obviously a complicated situation. But I think that's an obvious one that we always see when you see two people that should not be together for whatever, whether it's both of them don't work well with each other, or if there's just one person that's really struggling as a human being and not trying to grow and improve, and you got one person that wants that kind of life with it all. That's really hard to leave. And it's obviously more complicated than we're making it sound. We're not going through it, but you can even leave that person. Like, it sucks and it's going to be painful for sure. But life has so much positivity and so much beauty and so much love. And the greater sign is on the 8 billion, not on the zero. That 8 billion, I don't know why I keep saying 8, but the billion is, pay attention to that. Like, don't pay attention to the zero. Like, just move on. Like, forget about it. Like, drop it. It's easier said than done. But if you can learn to let go, man, the power behind moving on. Move on. Let it go. If it's not bringing you joy, just move on. Let it go.
There's so much power to that, honestly. And even in my life, there's from family members to friends to past friends, whatever. People are like, let's just have a conversation about this. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter. I've been blessed to not really care about the small things, thankfully. It makes life so much better.
Oh, yeah. It's
so much better.
Life's good.
It's like, well, that sucks. Sure, that sucks that happened. But what about all this beauty over here?
Yeah. Well, and if we are, talking through conflict is a powerful thing too. It's where you get to grow. It's where you get to improve. You get to understand somebody else on the other side of that situation. Like the animals, most people run away from conflict. Be the bison. It is difficult and it is painful, but go through that conflict because you're going to come out on the other side stronger. That relationship's going to be stronger. Reality is reality. If it's meant to be and you got two people or you got people that want the end result to be something positive, you'll get there. But you got to go through the pain. You got to go through the conflict to do it. So, I'm all for, say, the negative thought or the conflict conversation if we're trying to be progressive through that and actually come up on the other side. If we're just there to complain or we're all there to play the victim where poor me, it's your fault only, and it's not that, like, you didn't make the mistake and now I need you to, reassure me that you're going to do better. If it's not that, there's no point in just complaining just to complain. There's no point in just being the victim. That's not going to get you that level of success. That's not being true to the person in the mirror. Playing the victim with yourself in the mirror, that's an ever-ending race back and forth. You're never going to win it. It's never going to end. You got to put either that victim mentality or that behind and focus on the growth of it all. And if you're there to do that, you're there to progress through that conflict. Hell yeah, let's talk about the hard stuff. Let's talk about the past. Let's talk about everything else. But you have to have that intent to actually be improving that situation in a fair manner.
Absolutely.
But if it's not that, drop it, move it on.
And what came to mind in this is, you said it, cause effect. I talk about this all the time in my personal life, to my coaching group, whatever. It's cause effect. Mm-hmm. You can either be the effect in life, where life's happening to you,
Oh, yeah.
or you can choose to be the effect. But you got two choices of the cause. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I said that effect twice. Sure. Or you can choose to be the cause.
Yeah.
But there's two choices in cause. You can be the cause of a better life, or you can be the cause of a worse life. That can be moment to moment. That could be day to day. That could be month to month. But usually the ones choosing to be the cause of a better moment are the people that are choosing to be a cause of a better life. Mm-hmm. Usually the people, which I always say, red flag number one is victimhood.
Yeah.
Because those are generally the people choosing to be a cause of a worse life, a worse moment. Mm-hmm. And they'll take you right with you.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Misery loves company, and they got popcorn and snuggle blankets, and they're ready to drag you down, man. They need you down there. Being miserable and lonely sucks. They're going to find whoever they can to bring them down with them, because it either makes them feel better because they pushed you beneath them, or you get to swallow in their misery with them. It fixes nothing.
And now they're comfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm okay being right here.
Yeah.
Because she or he's right here with me.
Yeah, I got my team. I got my tribe. Why you fuck everybody else? Like, I got me.
Poverty? Yeah, that's fine. I'll sit right here. I got my family.
Which, it's always obviously one of those where it requires effort, and it requires a lot of work to, have that choosing, the cause of a positive.
Yes.
But you gotta choose that. And, wake up, tell yourself in the mirror that I choose this, and have that intent, and have that, vision that I am trying to create and do a cause positive life. If that's your intention, most of your decisions are going to be that way. And then when life does happen and you make a mistake, it's okay. It's a mistake. You're going to learn from it and improve on it. And then you're right back on course, because your goal for yourself, your goal is that positive growth mindset on it all. The best way to grow is by making a mistake. But if you keep on making that mistake and making that mistake, now we're going to the cause, to the victimhood, mentality. And you're not going to win there. That sinking sand, that quicksand's got you. But having that growth mentality, cause that you're choosing that cause, it's a great thing. But you have to be the one every single day telling yourself, this is what my intent is. This is what my vision is. But then, have grace with yourself when you have those mistakes, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen the next day. Like, life happens. But you don't follow down that road. Now you get yourself back up. All right, my intent is to improve and to grow. Let's use this as an opportunity from learning from that mistake or that situation. And now you keep on going forward.
Absolutely. And the cause is, for me, the number one cause that I can be in my life is simply being aware of myself, of my life, and with my relationship, mostly with my significant other, but with just general relationships.
Yeah.
Because if I'm aware, then I give myself permission to transform anything in my life.
Yeah.
And that's being whether aware of the number 100 in my life, that's a big effect, or whether it's a 0. It's being aware of everything to be able to say, hey, this is causing heartache in me, or this is causing heartache in my relationship, to where then I can have the cause of, again, having a hard conversation with myself or with somebody else to say, hey, this is where we're at. This is where we want to go. What's the solution to get there?
Yeah. And it's one where, being conscious of everything. I'm always trying to remember, when did I feel like I kind of became conscious to, life itself. I remember it being, 18, and you start doing a lot of personal research and personal reflection, and, being aware and conscious was such a important deal for me. And I just kept on getting more and more and more. And I'm always trying to remember what happened, or what was the thing that, awakened you to actually care and make that a priority. And I can't at this point really remember what that felt like, or what was the situation that got me there. But yeah, it's 100% correct. If you're not aware of your surroundings, or aware or conscious of, significant other things going on, I truly think that's more of it's a very selfish mentality to have, whether, it's conscious or most likely it's subconscious. Like that's just who that person is. If you've ever been around somebody that is just extremely selfish with every little thought process that they have, boy, is it difficult. It's one, no matter what you say, what idea you give, what thought you got to do it, it's wrong. Everything has to go through their lens, their perspective. And, it's true in the sense of, your perspective is your reality, but that's your reality. The reality is every single person here, every little living thing on this planet as one, that's the reality. Just because you're going through something through your perception, through your lens, yeah, that is your truth. That is your reality. But that doesn't mean it's the exact same for everyone else else is going on. It's just, there's more layers to that situation. But if you're struggling with awareness and you're struggling with being conscious to your surroundings and other people's thoughts or other people's perspectives, you're there's no easier way to say it, but you're being selfish. You're living this world as if you're the sun, as if the world's evolving around you, and it's obviously not. You're a part of the world. So take advantage of it and enjoy it. Be a part of it, but you're not the world. You're not the sun of the universe. But there's probably, it feels like there's a lot more people today that are very selfish, that are really living through their opinions and through their thoughts, through their perspective. That's step one, but there's more to it. It's more complicated than that. We got 8 billion people on this planet, and we got a lot of perspectives out there. And being my way or the highway mentality, and I think that plays into the victim mentality as well. It's selfish people are going to have that more victim mentality, because the moment things are great, they're happy, everything's good, you're not really hearing much about it. But if it's not great, they're going to let you know, because they're living it through their reality. So they got to have that struggle.
You're right down.
100%. So, being aware, being conscious to your surroundings and everything else of life, I think that's when you've been able to get away from that selfish mentality and realize that everything does not evolve around you. And that's a good thing. Like that take that pressure away from you. Like, the world is not you. You're not the sun of the universe. You can make those mistakes and things are going to be okay. Like, take that pressure off of you and just be the student of life. Just try to learn more than you did yesterday. Listen more and, talk less is like such an easy concept to do, but hard to actually, do for a lot of people, especially if you're selfish. It's hard to listen when you're selfish because you only care about what's going on in your head and in your mind.
You have the right answers to everything.
To it all. And I don't care who you are, you don't. It's no. I always talk about this with my son, is like, I obviously know more about life than he does. There's probably certain things that he knows a little bit more than I do, but I got a lot more years in him, a lot more life experience. I obviously, for the adults in the room, it makes sense that I know more about this world than he does. I know such a small amount about this world. There's 99.98% of things of this world I don't know yet. I have no idea. I'm open to it. You need to be open to that because you don't know everything. You can have, beliefs and thoughts and theories, and it's the best, scientific method of this is what I think is the best answer. But to act like you know everything is just, it's so incorrect. And it's such a small-minded way to think about life. Like, life is so much more than you could even fathom. There's no way you know everything. Information-wise, everything. Like, it's impossible. There's too much stuff going on. There's no way to know with true conviction everything in this entire world. So you need to be aware that you don't know everything, and be aware that I need to take the time and the effort to understand my partner more of what they're going through, because their perception and their reality isn't my perception and my reality. I need to care enough about their reality and their perception, and taking that time to listen and to care and be okay with not knowing it all, and be open to the new information. And, you add that to the table, get as much information as possible, add it to the table. Compare it. How does your gut feel? How does your life feel? Think about it, pray about it, meditate about it, whatever you want to do to get a best case scenario. It's your best think, it's your best guess, and, believe in that. But when you get new information, when your wife or your husband tells you something different about how they're feeling, you got to take that in. You got to be open to that new information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So 2 things here. One thing I want to bring back to a story about the victimhood, and then I want to share a story. One, have you ever heard, I'm going to butcher this story, by the way, so don't quote me on this. Have you heard the story of the crabs and like the fishermen with the guy walking by and saying, hey, your crab's coming out? So there's a story out there, and I'm sure I know it's a real thing because I've looked it up, but a man was walking along the beach, and there was a crab fisherman pulling in his crates, letting the crabs in the bucket. Okay. And there was an ambitious crab trying to get out the bucket. And the guy walking felt like he was a nice guy to say, hey, your crab's getting out of the bucket. He said, just watch. And the other crabs that weren't trying to get out of the bucket pulled the crab down.
It's like, not today.
No.
Well, because they're trying to save themselves. The only way to save themselves is to grab of what's above them to lift them back up. But obviously with gravity and everything else going on, you're just getting pulled back down.
I need to feel comfortable again. Yeah. Second story. So my wife, beautiful wife, is LDS. She goes to she goes to church minimally every other Sunday. When she's really good, per se, she goes every week.
You got to go every week. Come on, Megan.
I am not LDS. Right now, I'm going along my own spiritual journey. You could say I'm reading about all the different religions, different types of Christian denominations. I'm really excited about it all. I certainly believe there's another side. But from the beginning, people are like, how are you going to be together? How are you going to make it work? And still to this day, people will make comments like, man, that must be so hard. It's like, really? Why? She's herself, I'm myself, and we love each other for it. Her way of being is not my way of being, but we have conversation about it. We have common beliefs. We pray together. We believe in giving. We believe in being a good person. Like, why is it so hard to comprehend 2 people with 2 ways of being can come together? I would say it's been one of the reasons we've flourished, because we've been given permission to one another to just be.
It's really great to hear. And, obviously there's 2 people in this situation, but it's one of those where like it feels like, you guys have that, compassion and understanding and empathy and honesty to go through it and to grow through it all. Because that has to be there in a sensitive situation like this. Did you grow up around here? Mm-hmm. Did you grow up LDS?
I didn't. No.
Do you grow up religious, like in your household?
No,
at all.
We were taught to be a good person and everything would be okay. Yeah. My experience, which I also had to work through, which she's obviously been a big support, is that every Mormon is not the same. Every person that works at Target is not the same. Every part of any organization is not the same. Growing up, I would say I was mistreated for not being LDS here.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it was one where obviously in the last 5 years specifically, but even the last, 10, 20 years, Salt Lake, Utah has dramatically changed. It has, it's when we grew up, and let alone when our parents grew up here, but it was a different type of LDS where, you go outside of Utah and you meet LDS or Mormons all around the world. It was different. It's like they understood that like life is life. You got to figure out for yourself. It was the Molly Mormon, say, of Utah was a super real thing. It has significantly changed as younger generation has gotten older, and there's been, through technology and information, there's more information out there today than ever before, and you got a lot of younger people, and that doesn't necessarily have to be our age, but like it could be our parents still, have done a lot more reading, a lot more discovery of the other possibilities and opinions out there. And I also think, and I know this from my parents, I love my parents to death. It's one where I was spoiled to have great parents. I want to say I always appreciated it when I was younger. It was one where, my parents are still very active. I have one brother and sister-in-law that are active and married in the temple. he went and served his mission. For me personally, I remember so vividly at age 10 that I was not going to be a Mormon. I was not going to go on a mission. I was not going to be married in the temple. I knew at a very, very young age. And having my brother come out, it took me probably about 2 years for me to actually understand what was going on. It was about 8-ish. And again, he taught me really, really young is you don't need religion to be a good person. You get to choose that. You get to be the good person with it all. And it resonated with me. And I'll be honest, when I was a kid, it was very easy for me to understand my brother's perspective and his life and what he was going through. And it was pretty difficult for me to understand my parents' perspective. I knew they were great people. I always loved them, deep down, but it was one where they were my parents. They weren't there to be my friends. They were there to, create the structure, create the discipline that they were trying to do. But their objective was not to be my best friend through it all. They did a great job at teaching us boys the how and the what of what discipline looks like and what that can achieve in your life through your actions. I don't think they did a great job at explaining the why that's so beneficial. I do think they thought the church was kind of the why that they were trying to teach. But that wasn't good enough for me. That didn't resonate with me at a super, super young age. And then I remember being 18, moved out, started doing my own thing. At this point, I was, 8 years detached mentally from the church, if you will. And I was, a couple years detached from like actually physically having to go to church. But I remember I needed more. So I started doing more research on, the history of the church and, other perspectives of the church. I almost needed the what and the how and the why I felt that way. Because I knew what I felt, but I really didn't know why other than like, this is like, it didn't feel right for me. So then I started doing a lot more research there. And I ultimately, discovered what I needed to discover or what I was trying to discover then. And then I just went down the rabbit hole of how the world works and, geopolitics and, history with other countries and, history with, just different philanthropy and, how a lot of things actually happen in this world. And I got really upset with like, how the hell did we get here? Like, how did this world become what it was? And I was upset for a couple, a year or two where I want to say I was angry. I'm definitely not an angry person, but I was just upset that I can't believe basically this world is as messed up and unfair as it was. And then I had something personally kind of happen to me, two things in particular. And it just made me not just think about myself. The simplest way to put it is, when I was 19, I met my partner, and, at the time she had a 6-year-old son. So long story short is I'm stepdad. I've been around for 9 years now. And when I decided and knew that like that was the person I wanted to be with and that was the life I wanted to have, I ultimately, I was deciding to start taking care of, another adult and someone I cared about. But I ultimately, I had a responsibility of taking care of a child now too. And I took that very seriously and I put a lot of thought into that. And honestly, it wasn't a hard thing to figure out whatsoever. It was kind of one of those like, this is who I want to be with. This is the life I want to be having. Everything else that's coming along with it, like, let's go. Like, it was never a difficult kind of conversation, thought for myself, but I did transition of like, okay, it's not just about me anymore. It's about my partner. It's about a kid. So I really started looking at things just a little bit differently. And I think kids do that to you. I always kind of joke is there's 2 ways to learn life's lessons. You either live 70 plus years of life and you make all the mistakes and you go through all the hardships and you come out on the other side and you realize what's really important and you realize, what you probably should have been focused on the entire time, or you become a parent. That parent is like a sped up, right in your face, figure this out on the fly type of situation. Is in a good way, it lets you know that the world does not evolve around you. There's more important things than even yourself. And you need to make sure you take that seriously and you take care of another person and another thing. And that really opened my eyes up even more and kind of simplified that I'm not just making choices for myself. I'm not just leading an example for what I want to be, but also influencing another, young person. And over time, even though at a very early age, I was not in with the LDS culture, I didn't want to be a part of that. And I have my opinion about my personal opinion about capital R religion, about kind of corporate religion is how I like to, simplify it. But as I've gotten older and I've just put more time into thought, put more time into, myself, my mind, my body, the people around me, just keep on growing. I'm way more spiritual today than I ever was growing up. And I remember for a long time, you'd say God, you'd say the G word around me. Like, I didn't want that. Like, I didn't like it because every time I heard that, it was always with, LDS church or Christianity. And, it put a bad connotation in my mouth. I always felt like at a very young age that there's more out there. And as I've gotten older and I can articulate a little bit better for me and my perspective of what I'm going through is I always felt organized religion, it opened up your spirituality and opened up your mind, say 20%. It lets you know that life is magical. There's incredible things out there. There's so much unexplained stuff, but you can feel that spirit. I know multiple times of being in, testimony meetings and, actually feeling, that spirit. And it's like, it's real. Like it's a real feeling. But then in my mind with this more organized religion, they have certain labels and certain terms and they have certain, I don't want to say rules, but it's just like they have certain ways of thinking. And I always felt like they kind of put you in a box. And I never felt like that's where I wanted to live. I always felt like there was more of that. So, I always felt like they opened up your consciousness and your spirituality enough to let you know that there is more out there. And there's, it's to be open to that. But then they kind of put you in that box. And I was always like, I need to figure out that other 80%. These are just arbitrary numbers that I'm making up, but it's like, I need to figure out more and more and more. And then through just like discipline and growth and just putting a lot of thought and emotion into it all, I feel like I've, discovered a lot more and I've been a lot more open to that 80 extra percent, that full 100%. And, now, if somebody does say God, I don't have that like uncomfortable feeling because I don't attach that to just, one religion or Christianity or, an organized religion as a whole. I see it broader than that. I see it less binary than that. I always feel, whether it's, God force, God energy, there's this, human existence, mother nature, the universe, like it's all connected. And I feel that way so much stronger today. And I definitely did not feel that at a younger age. We were talking about my tattoos a little bit earlier. I'll kind of give you the story about it. So more or less think of a kind of Eastern approach on philosophy. So the sleeve it's all sacred geometry. Sacred geometry, the best way I could explain it is think of quantum physics or, the understanding of the universe put into designs and put into an illustration. The simple things, if you look at stuff at a microscope at a super, microscopic level, there's geometry everywhere. There's connections to the whole entire thing. The simple version is, the mandala at the bottom. It's got the piece in the middle. This is my very first one, but more or less a mandala represents it's the whole universe. Really just lets that everything's connected as one. The energy that gets affected here is gonna get affected over there. The cause and effect is everywhere. And then all of the sacred geometry is just other perspectives on that same kind of conversation. And I feel that so much more today than even when I got this or even before. But if you speak with somebody that, does subscribe and finds a lot of love and compassion in an organized religion, if you take away the certain rules and the certain commandments of certain stuff, they're all saying the same thing, really. It doesn't matter if you're talking about Christianity, you're talking to different, Jewish people, Muslims, it's like, it's different interpretations of like the same ideas and the same overall feeling of it all. You know, they just have different ways to get to the end of the road. So I respect and I appreciate that so much more, because I do think a lot of people benefit from that type of structure and having that kind of example to, keep them moving forward, keep being a better version of themselves, keep being positive, understanding that they are connected to something bigger than just themselves. You know, kind of going back to that earlier comment, you know, I think it's beautiful and it's good for a lot of people. You're part of a community. You know, there's so much positivity really from that if you're doing it the right way. And then from your younger experiences, and I've had my fair share of this as well, is it was the people that really turned me off to it for certain things. And I have no like real bad experience. You know, I have like some stupid little experiences of it all, but it's like for the most part, I was surrounded by, you know, good adults, good people trying to be their thing, but they're human beings. They're going to make they're going to make mistakes. They're going to not treat you as kindly as maybe you would have treated them or other people there. So that's, you know, you got to separate the religion from the people as well. Hard to do as a kid. And you know, there's good people and there's crazy people in religions too. But I think for the most part, if that makes you a better person, like that's a great thing. Like that's way better than not having that in your life. That's way better than, you know, not living a more growth-minded, positive, loving thing. On the downside of that, going to humans, you know, there's obviously people that say they live by those standards or believe in those kind of standards, but, you know, actions speak louder than words. You know, it's if their actions don't resemble what they're actually like teaching and sharing, that person's a liar. Like whether you like it or not, like that person's not living the way they want to do. But again, they're a human being trying to figure that out. And long story short, I'll kind of wrap up on the religion is I wanted to be open to it all. Like I'm one of those people, as silly as this is, I'm curious of what every temple, every church, ceremony, ritual, chant, song that every religion, culture, indigenous tribe has. I'm one of those people who's like, I want to experience it all. Like, I think it's all a part of the human experience and, you know, the you know, God, if you will, life, if you will, you know, universe, if you will. Like, I think it's all a part of it and it's all good things. For me, I don't like being stuck to like one thought process or a binary perspective on what God actually is I want to be open to it all. I don't want to experience every little aspect of it all. And I don't want to be, this is me. Sorry, I'm not like you guys. I don't want to be a part of that group. It's like, I want to understand every single group and religion and, you know, thought process out there.
I agree 100%. So, and this is something that me and Megan have talked a lot about actually, because I raised non-Mormon. You know, I was known as the non-LDS family, really.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, you're the non-Mormon friend kind of deal. Not literally put in my face as I just made that, but that was the title, right? So I have the perspective of that. She has the perspective of being raised Mormon. Yeah. The thing is, we're going back to authenticity is identity. When you are raised, you have school, you have home life, you have church life, you have society. Really, all of those play a part in who you become in your identity. 100%. But some of those pieces, like yourself, it's like, that's not who I am. And people need to learn how to break off that, right? So the thing that people aren't open always of asking themselves is, am I really being who I want to be? So my thing, being raised non-LDS, her being raised LDS is, and this is obviously for any religion, by the way, not just Mormon. When was the last time you actually questioned your beliefs? Like, do you really believe a specific Christian denomination you follow, Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism? Like, do you really believe it? Or are you just following it because that's what you were taught to follow? And that's where I'm like, man, like I have 2 books over here that's going over all the 12 different main religions, Christian denominations. I'm like, I want to know it all. Because what is my truth? I'm not just going to go subscribe to Christianity or Buddhism or this church or the Mormon because that's what I'm told is the right answer. But is there a right answer? Or is there just your right answer? Because take away Christianity, and let's even go back thousands of years before Jesus came. Why is Buddhism wrong? Are you really going to take God out of an entire country? Because that was their God, in a sense, right? Every country has its culture of what God is, because as humans, it's important for us to believe there's something bigger and after this life.
Well, I think there's truth to all of them.
Absolutely.
And I will say, like, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have said that because I was, more in that one construct, that one binary thought. And I was like, not that. So they all must be wrong. I got obviously my opinion about the whole thing as a whole, but you take away all the labels and all the extra stuff is like, there's truth to it all. And human psychology and human behavior is always something that I've been intrigued by, been curious about. The joke that I've always had, when I was going to school, I wanted to be a psychologist, but I couldn't see myself going to, 8+ years of school and then live a lifelong career going through all that. It didn't feel right for me whatsoever. So the joke is, I took the cheaper, faster route and I became a barber. Where I take the psychology side of it extremely serious. That's what really gets me going. I joke, I've been spoiled. I've had insane amount of education, just 1 in a million opportunities for all of that there. But what I like to say is, there's 10 things to being a barber, and number 10 is cutting hair. There's 9 more important things that build a lifelong career, that actually build you a clientele that's going to be with you forever. And it's all about the relationships and the communication and the service and the rapport. I've been spoiled to know that my number 10 technically is as high quality as you're going to get, but I'm not passionate about cutting your hair. I'm not passionate about, your grooming. I'm passionate about the person behind. I'm passionate about the people with it all. That's what really gets me going. The craft of, is really just the tool that I'm able to accomplish everything else. And I'm spoiled to be able to have an incredible amount of people sit with me that I get to bond with and have these conversations on a regular basis. My always joke is, the original podcasters were barbers. And if you take it seriously, all we're doing is talking to people. I do 45 hours with 45 different strangers every single week of just one-on-one interaction. And if you take that seriously, you can talk about these things. And, I don't talk about religion with every single person that sits in my chair, but I talk about a lot. And I talk about all the sensitive things in this world because I understand, whether you like it or not, religion, sex, politics, belief systems, and psychology, that's what life is. It's what we all get driven by. That's what we all get connected on. You got to be smart enough to know how to manage a conversation, know when it's appropriate and when that other individual can handle an alternative opinion, when to play devil's advocate, when to connect on it all. So there's, some responsibility in understanding how to do that.
As you said that, and I know this I've been aware of this for a while, but I love how you put that into perspective there. Everything that creates somebody's identity is what every war and every fight ever starts with. Politics, religion, the big things that is always sensitive, that is off the table for conversation, that literally creates a big part of who I am and you are and anybody in this world.
Whether you admit it or not. It's who you are.
It's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And that, I love that about you, is that you talk about that with your clients, because that's what builds the rapport.
You have to. You don't understand other people or other people's perspective. You're not learning, you're not growing unless you're having those conversations. It's not always the easiest. You're going back to the bison mentality, but really my dad, I have never met an individual that embraces conflict like my dad does. He's not a chaotic person. He didn't grow up around chaos. He doesn't thrive in chaos, but he sees the opportunity to connect and grow and to improve on that situation, and he takes it headstrong to go through it all. So I was able to see that through example still to this day, to have those. And, it's not always easy, but like I got plenty of things that I agree with my dad on a lot of these topics. I got plenty of things that I don't agree with on. And I have those conversations with him. And, sometimes it takes a while because we got different thoughts and we listen to it all. My dad's Mr. 20 questions. His detectiveness comes out full-heartedly. If you can answer those 20 questions, he'll respect the crap out of you. And he understands that, you've really put in effort to understand your perspective and what you're going through. You're not just choosing this or saying this because it's groupthink or because it's with an ideology or it's with a power move or it's with a political party. Like, it has nothing to do about that. You came to that conclusion because you tried to find all the information as possible, compared it against each other, and this is what makes sense to you and how you feel about it and trust in yourself. So I have an example that I'm able to do that on a very personal level, that not everybody gets that opportunity or has that with a parent, and it doesn't get emotional and it doesn't get chaotic, whether you get chaotic or they get chaotic. So I've always had that in my world. But kind of touching base with it all, if I can, I guess, use you guys as a little illustration, is we don't choose, not a single person on this planet chose when they were born, where they were born, and who they were born to. Not a single person consciously that any of us have a say in all of that. And I'm a big believer that your lifestyle that you choose to have today, the discipline that you choose to have today, is the life that you're creating for tomorrow. And I full-heartedly believe in that. But at the same time, we don't all have that same opportunity at the very beginning. The starting line isn't the exact same. Most people didn't get born into Salt Lake County, Utah, the United States, with a married family, parents that are 40 years married, that believe in goodness and structure and discipline and accountability and believe that actions speak louder than words. And to have somebody that, loves you more than anything. Not everybody obviously was born into that. So I'm beyond spoiled to have that. I'm very proud of who I am and what I've created in my life, but I understand not every single person starts at the exact same place. With you two individuals on, life journey, I'll say that is, say you guys are at two different spots because you're a different person, she's a different person, different families, you name it. So you're definitely coming from your own perspective. There's no way around that. Like, you're here, she's here.
Absolutely.
But what's amazing, and you guys, and I know you've touched base on this a lot, and I would imagine this is part of you guys' relationship, is you're not going to just like magically be on the same page about everything and then you just live everything perfect as one. But what you guys both have and what you've really been able to articulate on other episodes and other things that I've heard from you is having the vision kind of at the end. Almost think of it as the light at the end of the tunnel. When you have that goal or that place you're trying to go or that healthy relationship you're trying to create, whatever that end goal is, you both have that light at the end of the tunnel where, you're starting here, but you're both working to get to that light at the end of the tunnel that you'll eventually get to. But you understand, you're B, she's A, you're over here. You're not on the same plane right now. You're working towards the same goal. So you have that bigger vision. So you do know we're working to a similar goal together, but it's one when you understand that vision, and I think this goes a lot to being your authentic self. I'll tie it back to that. If that light at the end of the tunnel is you being exactly who you're meant to be, putting in the work to do it, being your authentic self, every speed bump or roadblock that's comes in the way, and it's going to happen, doesn't matter because your eyes on the light at the end of the tunnel. You know you're getting here no matter what comes your way. All the little conflicts and speed bumps and bull crap, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to go through it. You got to go over it. You got to go around it. You got to go through that pain and learn through it all. But you're always focused on where you're actually trying to go. Absolutely. And I think maybe the two simple ways for, finding your authentic self and being true to that is first, so the very first thing we said is, if it brings you joy, do it. If it doesn't bring you joy, drop it. So keep it simple with the word joy. The next one is create that vision, create that light at the end of the tunnel. And it doesn't have to be a 20-year plan. It doesn't have to be a business ventureship. It doesn't have to be $1 million. Like, it could be so much simpler than that. And honestly, simpler the better, because you're going to be able to achieve that and keep on moving on that. But create that vision board, create that goal that you're trying to have. And then every single day, every single week, minimally, when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, as we know, that's where the answer is always found, have that honest conversation with yourself. What did I do today? What did I do this week that's getting me to that authentic self, that's getting me to that light at the end of the tunnel, that's getting me to that goal? If you're having that honest conversation with yourself in the mirror, you'll get there, because you're reassessing and refining every single day, every single week of, this is my goal. What did I do? Oh, I did nothing. Makes sense. Well, I'm not getting there. Oh, I did X, or, I went to the gym, or I did this, or I called a friend, or whatever your goal may be. You're putting in the discipline, you're putting in the effort to actually achieve that. Hold yourself accountable in the mirror. It's, I guess, three things, but it's one of those, it's the joy. It's having that vision of where you're trying to go.
Very well said. And I would say that that's the one thing that has kept me and Megan going. I don't shelter my opinion about religion, politics, anything, just as much as she doesn't shelter her opinion. And we do have disagreements, but that's a good thing. If you're agreeing on something, that probably means somebody's lying or both of you are lying.
Yeah.
It's okay. Again, be the bison, be the buffalo, run through that shit, have those hard conversations and grow.
Yeah.
Get in, get out, as far as I'm concerned. You don't want to stay in that argumentative and I'm going to change your opinion.
Yeah, no, you can't be destructive.
Let's go into that conversation. Let's have a good conversation. Let's disagree and move forward. The thing about me is I look for disagreements. Not, I'm mad at you, you're mad at me. I'm actually intrigued why somebody believes in the LDS religion. Even though I don't, I'm curious to know. We disagree on it, but I want to know why. I'm curious to know why you like a specific president or why you don't like a specific president. I want to know. Yeah. I'm curious.
Well, it's part of reality, no matter what.
Let's have that disagreement.
Yeah, you have to.
It's, people look at the word disagreement as a bad thing. It's actually a really good thing, because it allows conversations to take place. It allows you to refine your opinion, and it allows you to refine who you are. Because when you learn of different cultures and different ways of being, you're either going to learn like, wow, I could be better in this area, and I've learned something new, which makes me want to go that way. Or I see the way of being, and even though I disagree with it, it strengthens my own testimony and myself, my relationship, or whatever the case is. Disagreement is a very positive thing.
Yeah, and it's always there. Like, it's, if you don't want to admit it or not, any unkept truth or any lie that you've pushed down in your brain and in yourself, it always comes to surface eventually. And there's unfortunately, if you don't feel like you're in a safe place to voice those opinions, you push it down, and different walls and different insecurities and different things go up. But eventually they do come out. And when they do come out, it's a bit more of an explosion. It's the volcano that hasn't erupted in a couple hundred years. It's pretty big. So it's pretty rough. And unfortunately, when you have a level 10 reaction to something, even though it is the truth, it's hard to deal with. It's hard to pick up the pieces at the end of it all. Not that it can't, but it's hard. Where if you can little bit by little bit, release basically the air on the tire, you get to a point where, there's not much more to release. And then now you're just living day by day. So then you're able to be honest about those certain situations. It's hard, especially in a relationship, because if you truly care about that person, you have to let their reality be their reality. You have to let their opinion be that. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, or you think it's not valid, that's what they think. Like, sorry about it. Like, that's how it is. Might be wrong, might be unjust, but it's like, that's where their starting point is right now. There's nothing changing that starting point. Sorry about it. But where you're going and where you're going to be finishing, you can change that and you can create that. So you got to understand that conflict is going to be painful and you got to go through it. But if you're judging where their truth is at, you're not, taking it the right way you're supposed to. Their truth is their truth, your truth is your truth, and you're coming together. And that's only a unselfish person can understand that. It's somebody that is open to new information, open to understand that they don't know everything, but they're curious to know more, and willing to put in the time and effort and patience to get your truth out more and to have that light at the end of the tunnel, because that's what we're really going for it all. So you as that person has to be that first. And then, when you have the partner that's the same, no matter what comes up, it's supposed to happen. It's your truth. It's your reality. There's no way from hiding from it. You got to go through it.
Absolutely. Well said. Now, to summarize all of this as we wrap up, 1, like you said, do the things that bring you joy. Cut out the things that you don't. 2, question your beliefs.
Yeah.
Question the things that you were brought up with childhood. Now, if you're Mormon, Catholic, whatever, and you question it and then you decide that that's your truth, badass. Yeah, hell yeah. Be you, but question it.
Yeah. Every day. Everything, every opinion, everything you hear, every thought that you think, you need to question it. You need to work through it.
Absolutely.
It's a good thing to question it.
Very good thing. And 3, be a bison, be a buffalo, run for it, have those hard conversations, be open to other people being themselves and be open to you being you.
Yeah. If you want to be authentic, you have to let other people be authentic as well. There's a difference between nice people and not nice people. That's a different conversation. But it's like, as long as people are, nice and there's good kindness and good positivity behind it, it's let them be their authentic self.
And for all the listeners listening that aren't willing to have the hard conversations, my question to you is, are you actually being authentic? Because if you're not being authentic, you're probably triggered by somebody else's authenticity. That was a bad word.
Yeah, I got you though.
But them being authentic, you're being triggered because they're being authentic.
Oh yeah. I have a quick little point to that is we live in a world of identity. You said the word a few times, tonight as well, where we live in this almost over-identification world. And yeah, your thoughts and everything, that it is who you are as a person. But how I like to say it, we live in a world where we're putting so much stock into our identity. We're putting so much stock into a lot of these things that we don't have a lot of control over. We didn't choose. At least initially, I like the idea as identify with as minimal to as less amount of things as possible, because that's not who you are. Even if to our conversation, even if you are religious, you're so much more than that. If you are a certain thing you like, a certain political person you like, a certain sports that you like, a certain hobby that you have, a certain thing that you do, even a skill set that you have, that's not your identity. Like you're so much more than that. Like you're selling yourself short if you're putting certain hard opinions as this is who I am as a person, because the moment anybody talks negatively or has a disagreement with your identity, you take it personally. And I always like to say it with haircuts. Say you say it with me. Say you hate that haircut. Say you come home, Megan hates that haircut. It's like, it could happen. It's like, even if I feel like, sorry, like, nope, everything is great shape, everything's good, anything could be there. Say you come back and you're like, Ace, I didn't love this, I didn't love that, anything with it all. It's more of the sense of like, it's great, we can do something about it. You're not saying you hate me as a person. You're saying you dislike something that I created. And yeah, I take a lot of pride in that, and I want to do better with it all. But at the end of the day, I am so much more than just that haircut that I gave you. There's so much more to me that you don't know, that nobody else knows. Don't sell yourself short with over-identifying, your personality. Have beliefs and have thoughts and, have, put in the effort to like, oh, this is what I think to be true, or this is what I think is going on, or this is the way I think I feel, or this is what makes me the happiest. But at the end of the day, don't put so much stock in your identity, because it's going to change tomorrow. New things are going to come out. Personalities are going to change. New ideas are going to happen. Don't be married to an opinion. Don't be married to a thought. You're so much more than that. How I like to teach it is, you have these thoughts. I always get asked, especially from my boy, I'm not an angry person. Like, I don't raise my voice. I don't get upset. I'm a human being. I can get tired and annoyed and stuff like that. But I have all the same negative thoughts that every single person on this planet has. I have all of these things go through my mind. But how I view it is, that thought is knocking on the door, and I invite it in for tea. I talk to it and listen to it, and then I walk it out the back door and it leaves. I don't let it go up in the guest bedroom and live in my house. That negative thought or that strong opinion doesn't live with me. It's a part of, my thought process, and I had it, but I don't let that be my identity. I don't let that be with me anymore. Easier said than done, but it's kind of letting things go. You got to let these things go. And, you're so much more than just an opinion and a belief, because you're going to get new information. It's going to happen. And you should be open to that, and you should want to grow and improve on that whole situation.
Absolutely. Well said. So now, just to open the floor, what would be your number one piece of advice for everybody listening around everything we talked about?
Oh my God. Well, impossible to put it into one. But it's simple, and I'm stealing this from somebody much more famous than me, but it's one of those where discipline equals more freedom. It's one of those where there's no shortcut in life, and it's all effort. No matter what way you do it. There's a good saying, Jim Rohn, he's one of my favorite people that's ever been on this planet, and I listen to all of his stuff. I wish he was still alive, but it's one of those where you'll either have the pain of regret or you'll have the pain of effort. But at the end of the day, that pain's going to be there. And, do you go to that cause of the more prosperous growth life, or you go into the cause of a negative life, or you're reacting to life? But it's one of those where it all requires effort. No matter what level of greatness, no matter what level of success in, character, in any career, in any industry, it's a success and greatness it's relative to you, but whatever that actually means to you, if you want to be great at something, it requires a lot of effort, and it requires more effort tomorrow, and it requires even more effort the next day. And effort is always going to be a part of that situation. With the discipline, it's fine-tuned effort that you're the most productive with a certain skill or certain discipline to achieve that freedom that you're going for. Two ratios I like to kind of say, you get to choose that you either live by a 1-by-1 ratio, or you live by a 1-in-99 ratio. And what I mean by that is the 1-in-99. Say your mom, Braiden, did you make your bed today? Oh, no, I slept in late, or I didn't think about it, or I forgot, or no, Mom, I don't want to do it. Excuses. It doesn't matter how many excuses you have. You can come up with 99 excuses, but at the end of the day, there's only one yes. Did you make your bed today? Yes or no? It's simple, but yes, I did. Okay, that's your one. Any excuse that you have is the 99. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't care what that excuse is. That's the 99. So you're giving yourself a 1% chance at success. Same tool, same objective. Did you make your bed? And you live by a 1-in-1 ratio, a discipline ratio. Did you do it? Yes or no? Yes, I did, Mom, or no, I didn't. Screw the excuse. Excuse doesn't matter. You either did it or you didn't do it. When you're living with that mentality and you're having that discipline to get rid of the 99 excuses, I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter. It's still an excuse. You're giving yourself a 50% chance. Yeah, you want a 100% chance in life, but it's not going to happen. Life's it's got to teach you more lessons than that. So you're never going to get 100%. But 50% is a hell of a lot more than 1%. And it's having that mentality that it's still only one yes or one no. but I'm choosing that yes. And that's you're choosing to that prosperous life. You're giving yourself a 50% chance. And I think the simple way to articulate all of that thought into one is discipline equals more freedom.
Absolutely. Well said. Man, I could talk to you for hours. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, dude, my pleasure, dog. I live close, so hit me up whenever.
We'll do something outside of the podcast room sometime.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much, man. Thank you all so much again for tuning into the Prosperous Life Podcast. Again, if today brought you value, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Have a good one, everybody.